Okay, let's talk about something huge. We're going to break down one of the biggest strategic shifts happening in business right now. Apple, one of the largest companies on the planet, is making a massive, multi-billion-dollar bet on India. And listen, this isn't just some minor tweak to their operations. It's a fundamental change in how they build their products and where they see their future.
So you gotta ask, right? Why? Why would a company that's famous for its perfectly optimized, China-focused supply chain just suddenly decide to make such a monumental shift? I mean, what's really driving this move?
Well, the thing is, it's not just one thing. This is actually a brilliant two-sided strategy. Think of it like this. It's part defense, a way to hedge against risk, and part offense, a really aggressive play to capture a massive new market. Let's break down both of those pillars.
All right, first up, let's dig into that defensive side of the coin. How Apple is basically turning India into a strategic fortress to protect its entire global operation.
You know, the number one goal here is pretty simple: de-risking. For years and years, Apple and China's manufacturing machine were tight at the hip. But with all the geopolitical tensions, trade issues, and just general uncertainty these days, that heavy reliance has become a pretty big risk. India offers a really powerful alternative.
And this is not just some plan on a whiteboard. We're talking about massive, massive investment. Apple is now assembling a staggering $22 billion worth of iPhones in India every single year. That number alone just shows you how serious they are about this shift.
But that's just the start. The ambition here is even bigger. Think about this. The goal is for India to be churning out almost a third, that's 32% of all iPhones in the entire world by 2026 or 2027. This would take India from being a small part of the puzzle to a central pillar in Apple's manufacturing world.
Now, Apple can't do this alone, right? They're teaming up with some heavy hitters. The Indian giant Tata Electronics is now a huge player, responsible for more than a quarter of all the iPhones made in the country. And of course, you've got Foxconn, Apple's legendary partner who's pouring over $1 billion into its Indian facilities.
And what's really supercharging this whole thing is the Indian government itself. Their Make in India push, and especially this program called the Production Linked Incentive, or PLI, has been a total game changer. Basically, the government is offering cash incentives for companies that hit their production targets, which makes it a no-brainer for Apple and its partners to move in and scale up fast.
Okay, so that's the fortress. Now let's flip the coin and look at the other side of this strategy, the offense. This is all about turning India from just a place to make things into a place to sell a whole lot of things. It's about India as a growth engine.
And wow, is it already paying off? We're talking $9 billion in sales in India for Apple in fiscal year 2025. That's a 13% jump from the year before. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. People there are hungry for Apple stuff.
And the long-term potential is just off the charts. You're looking at a $1.4 trillion economy with a middle class that's growing like crazy and a whole generation of young, tech-savvy people who grew up with smartphones. For a premium brand like Apple, this is pretty much the next great frontier for growth. So how is Apple actually planning to win over this market? Well, they've got this cool three-step playbook. First, they're planting their flag with those gorgeous flagship stores in big cities. Second, they're making their products easier to buy with things like student discounts and trade-in programs. And finally, they're going after the professional market, targeting India's huge base of coders and tech workers. And this is where it all comes together, right? On one side, you have the fortress, India as the production hub, the safety net against global politics, the key to a more resilient supply chain. And on the other side, you have the market, India as a massive consumption engine, a new source of growth, and a new place to build that premium brand. It's his perfect 1-2 punch. But let's be real, a bet this huge, it's not a walk in the park. It's a constant balancing act between those incredible rewards and some very real risks and challenges on the ground. This really lays out the trade-offs, doesn't it? Yeah, on the risk side, you've still got infrastructure that needs work and some bureaucratic red tape. And this is important, China is still absolutely essential for the really complex high-tech components. But then you look at the reward side. Access to that booming middle class, a whole population of digital-first consumers, and, the big one, long-term revenue streams that aren't all tied to one place.
So this is a really important point to get right. For now, you should think of India as complementing China's role, not replacing it completely. It's a long, slow transition. For the foreseeable future, both countries are going to play critical but very different roles for Apple. So let's zoom out for a second. What does all this mean? What does it tell us about the future of global business when one of the most powerful companies in the world makes a move like this? And get this. Here's a wild fact that really shows you this isn't some far-off future plan. It's happening right now. The thinking at the very top of Apple is that we've reached a point where the majority of iPhones sold in the US will actually originate from India. That's today. That's how big this shift has already become. All right, so let's boil it all down. What are the big things to remember? First off, this whole thing is just a masterclass in how to manage risk in a crazy, unpredictable world. Second, it's basically a blueprint that you can bet other huge companies are studying very, very closely. And finally, it is a loud, clear, and very expensive bet on the future of the Indian economy.
And all of that leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. Apple is redrawing the map of global manufacturing right before our eyes. So as these global dominoes keep falling, who's going to be next?